Join us in the Bear Den, a real-life, real-love podcast celebrating the joys and challenges of parenting, family dynamics, and unconditional love.
Welcome to another episode of the Bear Den. I have one of my great friends, fellow Arizonan, Joshua Windsor without a D, Sherwood. Windsor without a D.
Nailed it.
Windsor without a D. What?
It's a family name on my mom's side.
Windsor.
My mom's maiden name.
English heritage there?
For sure.
There's gotta be. But she'd have a D. She'd have a D if she was actually English.
I don't know. I'm sure there's plenty of English with no D.
You've been lied. You've been lied to your entire life. You've been lied to your entire life.
You're one of the Englishmen with no D.
You're gonna go home and be like, hey, Mom, I need to talk about my heritage. Are we English? What's going on here? So, Josh, you are, and I've said this to Mark on our podcast too. You, when I think of great fathers, you are one of them.
Just easy there. Easy.
No, I have seen you.
I
have seen you with your kids at home in your element. You truly are a beautiful, great father.
Thank you.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to be one of the first people on my podcast talking about parenting, because you have a very unique dynamic with you and your kids and you and your family, which we're going to dive into. So, 4 children. You got 4 kids.
Yes.
2 boys, 2 girls. So You're a girl dad, just like me.
Yep.
You've got Dre, who is 20.
Almost 20.
Okay. You've got Crew, who's 18, who I love. That kid.
How do you not love Crew?
I cannot. Yeah, I love Crew. The way he calls you king.
Oh, well, I think Dre started
Oh, did he really?
Oh, yeah, from when he was little, and then it just caught on like wildfire.
So people who are listening and watching, Josh is literally the king of his family. His kids call him king. His wife calls him king. We now as friends call him king. You may or may not have an outfit that has king on it.
Hey,
that you
I may
rock.
or may not. But I will say, when people that don't know us, like out in public, and they hear my kids say, hey, king, they probably think I'm the biggest dick. They probably think I'm making my kids call me king. And I definitely don't make them call me that. They just do. I don't even know where it came from.
I love it, though.
They've had these nicknames for me, and then it just transformed, and then somehow ended on king. I don't know.
It fills your cup, though, doesn't it? I can tell, because I've seen it when your kids call it you.
I just feel like it's dad. When I hear king, I'm like, oh, dad. I don't know.
You're right. You're right, kids.
Yeah,
You're right. Thank you.
I am your dad.
And then you got 2 beautiful daughters. Yes. Marley, who you said is 15.
Yes.
And then Presley is 11.
Yes.
Okay. So let's go back. So Dre, 20 years old. You had just started your business at this point, right? Sherwood Outdoors?
Yes. Yeah. So Dre was born in 2003.
Okay.
And I started right about then. Maybe I was started in maybe 2002, but like licensed, and I had all the paperwork, and officially I think it was 2003.
So, people, if they haven't listened to it, they should absolutely go and listen to the podcast with you and Mark McCormack, because you go into starting your business, starting with like, what was it, $600 and something in your account or on a credit card or whatever it was?
It was way less than that. When I told my wife I wanted to start doing this, I had to go like buy a wheelbarrow and some shovels, and she was with me at Home Depot, and we didn't have money to pay. I had to put it on a credit card, and it was like $189 or something stupid like that.
So you start this business, and you said in that podcast, like $189, like, oh shit, how are we going to pay this off?
Well, my wife
kind
of freaked out. She's like, I don't know, how are we going to get this money back?
Yeah.
And we were serious. You're so young.
Yeah.
We were dead serious on like, oof, this is a big risk. But hindsight, you're like, oh my gosh, that was just like, but in the moment, we're just kids, right? Mm-hmm. You're like, let's hope this works.
And then you have a kid.
Yeah, she was pregnant at the time, right? And so I was doing what I was doing, and I was just like, okay, this probably isn't a long-term thing that would work long-term to provide and create the life that I wanted to create for us. And so I was like, okay, let me try this.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, that was all the thought that went into it.
So when you have a child, 18 months, 2 years into a new business, which you've just started, which, you didn't know a lot about at that point. You're like kind of figuring it out as you go along and growing this business.
Exactly.
What was that mindset of like, oh shit, what if this fails?
Yeah, I never.
Or did you even think that? Because I know you. You probably didn't even think, what if this fails? You're just like, I'm going to make this work.
Well, and there wasn't so much on the line where it's like, if this doesn't work, I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to lose. It was because we were so early in life. We were renting for $500 a month, this little casita in someone's side yard. And so we didn't have a lot of overhead at the time. And I didn't quit where I was working, right? I started it as like something on the side, like on the weekends.
Okay.
So that's how it started. So it wasn't like I just quit my 9 to 5 job.
Gotcha.
It was, but it only took about 3 months till I did.
Yeah.
Right? 3 months, and I was like, okay, I have enough work. I can quit this job and then dive all into this.
How did you balance the work family life, especially with such a young kid, and then you had crew 2 years later? So within a 4-year period, you got 2 young kids and a growing business.
Yeah. So balance, I wouldn't say there was balance.
Okay.
Right? I wouldn't say that. Luckily for me, I married an amazing woman, and that time in her life, all she wanted to do was be a mom.
I love that. Yeah.
And so she literally like took care of everything.
Yeah.
Like, especially when kids are really little, like you get home from work and hold them, but like nursing and a lot of the things the woman just does. And so she allowed me, I would say she created this home life that allowed me to really dive all in.
Just focus on work.
And that's
provide.
exactly what I was for years. And I would say as the kids started to get a little older is when I probably had a little more of a balance there.
Do you look back and think I missed quality time with the kids in their very, very early years? Or are you just like,
not at all.
I did what I did for me to enjoy the years I have now?
Yeah, I don't feel like, because I was at everything that was really important.
Okay.
I never missed a game.
Yeah.
I didn't miss a recital. Like those kind of stuff I never missed.
Yeah.
And that's the benefit of also working for yourself or having a job where you are able to duck out a little early to like go to the game and so I never missed those kind of things. But there was, there was times where I was like, I was gone a lot, but mostly it was during, I would wake up before they would get up, and then I would get home early enough, because especially in Arizona, you don't work till 9 at night.
Yeah.
You work till 4.
Yeah, you're done.
And so then from 4 to get home from school.
And you still do that now. You get up at like 4 every morning, and
I get up at 5. I've slacked off a little.
You slacked off a little bit. Slacker.
5.
Okay, we need to get you cold plunging.
Yeah,
but it's true. Like you get up relatively. Like a lot of your day is already done before most people get up out of bed.
That's very true, and that's just custom. My dad, I remember, my dad was an early riser. On Saturdays, like we'd be in school, and Saturday or Sunday, he would wake us up for no reason, just like, get out of bed. I don't want you sleeping. I'm like, and do what? He's like, I don't care. Just get up.
Just sit around in my pajamas, but I'm awake.
And so from an early age, it was just waking up early was just something I did.
So talking about that, how was your parenting life? How was it growing up as a kid? What were your parents like? How was
I noticed, I emulate a lot of what I saw my parents do. So my mom only wanted to be a mom, and she dove all into being a mom. Everything, right? Did all the things.
Makes the best bread on the planet.
Oh, yeah. Mark almost overdosed on that.
It's easy to. Holy shit! She should brand it and sell it.
And so she took care of the house in such a way where my dad just freaking dove all into work.
Okay.
Right. And that's what I saw growing up. I thought that's what it looks like in a family. The dad goes to work, the mom takes care of the kids, and so I naturally was gravitated toward Carissa because that was one of the things that she really wanted to be, was a mom. And so I naturally said, oh, this feels right. And I naturally just in my mind, I was like, and what dads do is they get up at dark and they go work their asses off.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, do you think that's part of like the LDS mentality too?
For sure.
The men work.
For
the
sure.
women
That's
stay
a
home.
Mormon. That's Mormon culture. Not always.
Yeah.
And I'm also very, I'm very pro a woman being a mom and everything else she wants to be.
Yeah.
Right. I'm pro that.
Yeah.
Like I think women can be such a great mom and create this beautiful home and atmosphere to be in, and also do anything else in the world they want to do. I don't think it's a pigeonhole where you're either a great mom and homemaker or you're other things. No.
Shit, I'm married to one of those women.
Yes.
Andrea is the most amazing mom I know, but she's also a baller of a business
baller. And so women are so talented and so gifted, they can do it all, right?
Yeah.
And so, but just in my scenario at this age in my life, that's kind of the dynamic that it was.
So did you have a good childhood, happy childhood? Like
yes.
it was.
Yeah, my parents like I said, my mom, all she wanted to be was a mom. And my dad worked his ass off, gave us a good life. I spent a lot of time with my dad because my dad was into rodeo and roping, and I was the only kid out of us 6 kids that loved it. And so I was just with him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We'd go into rodeos. That's why I wanted to come to Sawyer Brown last night.
Yeah.
Because in the truck, going rodeo to rodeo, we'd listen to Sawyer Brown and Oak Ridge Boys and all these old country bands. So it was a little nostalgic.
So there's a little nostalgia last night then.
Oh, that's why I was freaking vibing.
You were living your best life.
And I was mad. I was like, hey, keep to the hits. He was singing these other songs that I didn't know.
Stop singing your B-sides. I want your A-sides.
I need A hits so I can sing my heart out.
Yeah, you were toe tapping.
I went in falsies probably twice.
Oh, I heard you. I think Sawyer Brown almost stopped at one point to let you sing. I was like, holy shit.
I think he did.
So good family life, family life full of love as a kid.
Yes,
parents that kind of showed you what a parenting lifestyle
Yeah, I think,
should be.
and I've told my dad this. I was like, I think the biggest quality you did for me was show me what it was to be a father, a hard worker, a husband.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he sat us down and just told us all these. It was like he showed us, and that's something that I've tried to do in me as now a dad.
Mm-hmm.
I think showing your kids is way more important than telling them.
Yeah. And I've seen that with you. When we've had the privilege and the honor to be in your home, because as much as a big character you are, that we know the Josh that we know. We know Josh, or I know Josh through We Are the They, and that's how we've become friends. But you are a big character at the Ludices and the adventure trips in Spain. You are, always laughing, always cracking a joke, always taking the piss out of people. That's who you are. I've also had the fortunate to see you in your home life. You are a different character. You are very mellow, very loving. You are a family man. Your family is, that is your all.
Yeah.
That is your being.
That's very true.
And I love seeing that different. And in fact, your wife Carissa was like, I love when Josh is with you guys, because it's a side I never see of Josh. Because I always just see this guy who is so caring and loving, and then when he's with you guys, I'm like, who is this guy? He's like a teenager. It's like a frat boy. Look at him. He's telling you to go screw yourself, and he's giving you shit. I don't see this side.
I
of
love
Josh.
giving shit. That's
and
when you're good at
it.
something, you double down.
You are good at it.
And you double down.
You're good.
I've been taught that.
There's times I look
Find
at
what
you,
you're
I'm like,
good
just-
at and double down.
I'm like, he's so good at this. He's hitting a nerve right now, but I know he loves me, so I'll let him do it, right? So you got 2 beautiful boys, and then you have a beautiful daughter, Molly.
Yes.
Special needs.
Yes.
Okay, and I actually wrote this down. I did some research. She has genetic epileptic disorder, CHD2. How is that for you? As being a dad, you are having a 3rd child, and you're told that she has special needs. What goes through your head at that point?
So we didn't really know with her. So she had a normal pregnancy, my wife did.
Okay.
And she was born. And at about the 6-month mark, when she's supposed to be like rolling, and there was a lot of those target things that she just didn't hit.
Okay.
So then that's when we started to say, okay, let's, and the doctors were saying, okay, she's little, she's not growing. She has a hard time like looking at you in the eye. There were some signs there as a little baby, but we really had no idea, right? And so throughout those first few years is when we realized, okay, but we never really had a diagnosis. Like we never had something to label, okay, what is it that she has, or what is it that she doesn't have? We just thought maybe there's some autism, maybe it's just developmental delays, and that's kind of what we went with for several years. We knew so like right now she's 15, and I would say mentally she's probably like an 8-year-old.
Okay.
Right? So super high functioning, but there's several challenges that come with that with her. But I've always just like, I don't know, I just have a soft spot for Marley. She just creates this colorful life for all of us, for all of my other kids, and for my wife. Although there's really, really hard times, right? Mm-hmm. Super hard times. There's this colorfulness that she adds to our family that just is like, I couldn't imagine a life without her.
Yeah. How did it change you as a parent? Because it must have. Because whatever you say to the boys, to Dre and crew, and do this, do that, you've got to completely shift and adapt with Marley, because she doesn't learn the same. She doesn't, she doesn't communicate the same.
I would say Marley has taught us all. She's like the teacher in our family, right? She teaches what we need to get better at in our lives. And I think for the first thing that comes to mind is patience. Just, and unconditional love, just like she'll tell you to eat shit. And then, oh, I'm sorry, Dad. Like just these sayings she does. And with our kids, like to watch my kids with her is just so heartwarming.
Yeah.
Like when my boys are gone, like on a blitz working, and they come home, and Marley just can't wait to see him, and they can't wait to see her.
Yeah.
It's this, and the way Presley, my youngest daughter, will like help do her hair, and like when Carissa was out of town, sometimes we'd be getting ready for church. I didn't know how the fuck to do a girl's hair.
No.
So I'm like, Presley, and she's like 5 at the time.
You and I are both bald. There's no way we've done hair.
So she's like 5 at the time, or 4. And I get this little stool, and Marley stands in front of the mirror, and Presley stands on the stool.
That's beautiful.
We have this picture that just warms my heart. And Presley's like doing her hair, and Marley lets her. Marley somehow, just because Marley sometimes likes her space. Mm-hmm. But with Presley and with our boys, it's like she just has this, I don't know, she just lets them in her life. And it's.
Have you seen with the boys and with Presley that the way they've grown up having a sibling of Marley who needs patience, who needs a little extra care, a little extra attention, a little softer touch, that's molded them into different humans as they're growing up?
I like I said, Marley's been this amazing teacher for our family. Yeah. So imagine when you were 18, or me, probably the most selfish time of your life, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You only care about yourself. You only care about what girls you want to date. You only care about
the parties.
Yeah, the parties. And with our kids, they still are like that, obviously, with my boys. But with Marley, there's this dynamic of we still have to, okay, where's Marley? What does she need? Mm-hmm. I'm in charge to watch her, like when we go out of town or something, the boys. And so there's this unconditional love and this selflessness that Marley has taught, that I think it would be hard to teach them that without her. Like this a beautiful human that needs some extra care, needs some extra watching, some extra attention, extra love, extra patience, because she might go off on him and scream and yell at him, and then the next day wants to cuddle with him. And it's just like it's taught, like I said, it's been this beautiful dynamic in our family with Marley.
I love that. Yeah. I've personally seen what Marley brings to the table. I have the first real memory of you being the amazing family man that I know you are was at your house. We were all up at your house. I think it was for Carissa's birthday, and Marley was there, and she was sat on the swing set, the egg swing that you have right by your hot tub. Yeah. And she was just kind of in there by herself, and you went over and you were just pushing it, and she was laughing her head off.
Oh, yeah.
And I literally just sat there and I was like, what a beautiful moment. Like, we're there, your friends are there, your wife's there, like, naturally you want to feel like the host and entertain the people in your space, in your home, but you just disconnected yourself from all of us, and you just spent 5 minutes just pushing Marley on that damn swing, and she was living her best life. And so were you. You were getting just as much of it from she was. And that's the moment where I was like, you know what? That is a phenomenal family man right there. And it's always stuck in my mind as that just a beautiful, beautiful moment of like, if I could level up to be the dad that Josh is with a kid like Marley, then I'm doing all right,
Yeah. Thank you, man. I mean, my family is like one of the few things that is just so special to me. Like, I just hold, it's like this, almost like sacred to me.
Yeah.
I don't have to talk about them all the time or bring it up, but they're just this, I would call them this anchor for me. Mm-hmm. No matter what goes on in business or in the world, it's like, man, I can go home and just have this love around me, and I just can't. It's hard to describe that, especially for someone like me, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't have a lot of emotions.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
never noticed.
I don't have a lot of emotions. But
that's actually not true. You do.
I
your
do.
emotions come out in the way of like, I'll give you shit.
My emotions are laughter usually.
Yeah.
But just this dynamic of like, I feel like every man in the world needs a family to reach their full potential.
Oh yeah.
And with me is just like, it just makes it all worth it, right? Like, because I mean, I've spent years working really, really hard. And I don't know that there was a day where I really was like, fuck this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew what it was providing. I knew who it was helping. I knew what the life it was creating, and not for me. I could live in an apartment and drive a piece of shit car and be plenty happy. But like it was bigger than me. And like when something's bigger than you and it's your family, it's your wife and your kids, it's just like, for me, it's just like the ultimate motivation.
I love that, dude.
It's the ultimate
I love
motivation.
that.
Yeah.
So you've got Presley. She's 11, right? Yeah. Little dancing queen.
Oh yeah.
She is dance, right? And obviously Carissa takes her to all these. Are you the epitome of a dance dad? Do you get involved?
I try not to miss one of her things. Like the first time I went, I was like, oh God, we're going to be watching these dancers. And so backstory, Carissa was a dancer when I met her. Okay. She was in a college and she danced for the college.
Oh.
And so, to be a good boyfriend, I would go to these performances.
Of course
she's been in the Nutcracker.
Of course you would.
And I remember watching these, and seeing these men, in these tights that were tighter than spandex. I don't know how you get tighter than spandex.
They're painted on.
And you could see the outline of their junk, right? And I'm just like, I got to get out of here.
Especially as like at that time you're in the rodeo, you're doing team roping.
And even in our family, there wasn't a lot of artsy things like painting and drama class. There wasn't a lot of that growing up. And so that was so foreign to me, right? And I remember Chris is like, oh, the Nutcracker. And she would have a 5 and a 7 p.m. performance, and I would stay for both.
Of course you would.
And I'm like, oh, things I do for love, So and fast forward, Carissa, we got married, and so she stopped dancing. And so I hadn't had another one of those experiences until Presley's first recital. And I'm like, oh, is this going to be another one of these? And I remember watching her, and I was just blown away.
Yeah.
Almost moved how beautiful she was, and I was like, I've never felt that way. It was like an emotion that I felt. And now it's like, I can't not watch her.
Yeah.
I will fly to California for a night just to watch her and then fly home. I will do everything I have to do to never miss any of her performances. And she's just amazing at it, and she loves it. Yeah. And it just brings out this light and brightness in her.
Carissa shares the stories and posts on Instagram and all that sort of stuff. And it's amazing to watch it. Your wife, Carissa, if you really want to understand Josh's family, like his wife, Carissa, literally gives you the behind the scenes of living in the Sherwood household.
She'll give you the details.
She gives you the Marley tantrums. She gives you, Marley literally unloading all of the dish soap into the sink. And she's like, oh, fuck me. We have to go buy more soap. Yep. You come home and there's literally every pool toy in your pool.
Including the umbrellas and the patio furniture. And then the pool guy comes.
He's like, what the fuck?
I can't see the floor. There's too much shit in the pool.
And
I'm like, charge me extra. Get it out for me. Because I don't want to do it.
Get it on the other side, you've got, Presley, the makeup and the hair. And
as girly as it gets.
It's so fun to watch your family dynamic. It is
fun. Right now, we are just in this amazing phase of our life.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So you talked about it. We touched on it earlier. Raised LDS.
Yes.
You left the church right around about COVID, so 2020.
Yep.
So your kids were raised in the LDS church, in the LDS mentality, going to church.
Oh, yeah.
When you decided to leave in 2020, was it a family decision? Was it a you and Carissa decision, and we'll explain it to the kids? How did the dynamic of the family change leaving the church?
That's a tricky one. Me and Carissa were for sure on the same page.
Okay.
We always have been on the real big stuff in life, right? We always have, you can disagree and, hey, let's do this, let's do that. But on the real important things, Carissa and I usually have always seen eye to eye. And so when we really felt strongly about leaving the Mormon church, it was tricky. Carissa kind of wanted to ease the kids into that idea. And it's hard for me to do that. So I'm like, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Let's just tell them. Because we'd already stopped going to church because of COVID. COVID shut down the churches, right? So we went because church wasn't open. So they got used to not going.
Gotcha.
And then as Carissa and I were really evaluating where we wanted our lives to go and what we felt to be important for us as a family, we started noticing a little more distance between us and the church and with where we wanted to go. And so once we decided that was it, we basically just freaking like a Band-Aid with our kids is, we don't go to church anymore.
Did the kids have an opinion on it? Were they
I mean, they were probably a little
surprised.
surprised. They weren't against it because I've always been very open with our kids. Even when we went to church all the time, there was parts of church that I didn't like.
Gotcha.
And I would come home from church and we'd sit them down and kind of undo some of the things that they were taught at church. Say, hey, that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we think's right. This is what we think. This is, so they were used to like certain things of the church. Like, okay, we don't really, that's not something we like as a family or we want to live by. But yeah, it was a shock, but it wasn't a transition because we'd already stopped going to church.
Gotcha.
And Sundays just became really fun for us. It was a family day.
Mm-hmm.
We would swim, we would go to the lake, we would go to a movie, instead of church, right? And so they actually started to love Sundays.
Yeah.
But it was tricky, actually, like trying to still have the values and the principles that we got from church that we still enjoy and appreciate and value, like the way to live and to love your neighbor and to try to be Christ-like and not judge, and like all of these things were still part of who we were. Mm-hmm. We just kind of like removed the actual religion part of that out.
That was actually was going to be my next question. Do you still keep the values of what church taught you?
For sure.
Without the religious aspect of it, like be a good neighbor, love your wife, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's a lot of those things that, and I don't know that I'd say I learned them in church. I think I learned them from my parents.
Yeah.
But at some point, church
taught it to them.
Yeah, or church just like affirms, right? Like, hey, my dad says, love your wife and be a good husband and be a good father. And then church, that also says that. Mm-hmm. And you kind of get instilled these values, which I still am a firm believer in these values. And so that was the dynamic, is that, hey, nothing's really changed in our life and what we stand for as Sherwoods. Mm-hmm. We just don't go to church anymore. We don't bring that type of religion in, but we still want the spirituality. Mm-hmm. Which is tricky for me. Chris is really good at that, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And we still want to like love each other and love your neighbor and be a good human and work hard. And so that's why I don't think it was that big of a change for them. It's really weird to say that. Like, I would say if anything, we got closer as a family, and not further distant.
I love that. Because it can ultimately change the dynamic of a family, especially when you've got a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old. They would have been 15 and 17 at that point.
So Dre was actually getting ready to go on a mission.
Oh, wow.
That was the tricky part. And Carissa was like, I think we need to just let him go and we could figure it out when he gets home, because it's 2 years. And I'm like,
that's a big investment. You go away for 2 years and you come home and your parents are like,
we're going to be upfront with him. If he still wants to go, he can go.
Yeah.
But we're not going to just pretend like we're still going to church and we're all in, and then send him on his way. And then he comes home and we're like, and that's what happened. As soon as we talked to him, he's like, I didn't really want to go on a mission anyway. And so it removed that pressure from him, and he didn't go, and he went to work, and here we are.
I love that. How do you connect with your kids? Because you're a business owner. You have a very, very, very successful business, which you built from the ground up, making some of the most beautiful backyards and pools in Arizona. Not down my area, because you won't come that far south, but in Phoenix, the pools that you make are just out of this world.
Thank you.
You run that business. You're very engaged in that business. You're out every day in the field, looking at the job sites, working the crews. How do you engage with the kids when you come home? What's your key thing to do with each of the kids?
So I try to connect with them on their terms, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
With Presley, it's supporting her in dance, taking her, picking her up, talking to her, Dad, look at my new makeup, and just try to, Marley is the easiest one for me. It's just time.
Yeah.
She just wants to hop in the truck. We might not even say a word to each other. She's just there in the back of the truck, and we're just driving around. Get her a Sprite, is she hungry? she'll be like, Dad, let's go check some jobs. And she'll just be in the back of the truck. Marley is, for me, the easiest one of my kids to connect with because it's just time and like presence.
Yeah.
Even in the same room, like she could be watching a movie and I'll just sit on the chair and whatever she's watching, some dumbass YouTube that she's into, or whatever. And just being in her presence, I feel like is connecting with her. And with the boys has been more of a challenge as they get older. I just want to be there for them when they have questions, when they're curious about things. And again, just being under the same roof, being with them. Yeah. And so creating value for them when they want it. I try not to ever force my ideas and what worked for me, try to tell them this is what you should be doing because I did that and it worked versus, hey, I think you could figure out what works for you. It doesn't have to look like what I did exactly. I think there's principles there and values that are the same, but like the way, the work harder, not smarter. Some of that stuff I didn't learn until I was older. I always thought, no, work harder.
Yeah.
Work harder, more hours.
Which came from your dad.
Correct.
Because that's what you saw.
Oh, my dad, he would tell me, he's like, hey, the minute you slack, someone's going to come in and swoop. And so there was a little more of a scarcity mentality when I was younger versus abundance mentality, meaning, no. There's enough work for everyone in this world. You don't have to be scared of some other company coming in and taking over the area or no. And so with my boys, I want them to still have this work ethic, but do it how they think's best for them and what works for them.
Do they have the future figured out, the kids? Well, especially not so much Presley. She's 11. She wants to dance and have fun. And, Marley's Marley. She'll just tell her to go fuck off and do whatever she wants, which I love, by the way. Marley literally says what everybody else is thinking in the room.
Yeah, I mean.
Uncontrollably. She's like,
and her new favorite word is fuck.
It's everybody's.
Like this is just in the last 6 months. She loves to say fuck. And to try to keep a straight face when she says, and she'll use it in the most correct ways.
I love that.
Like, fuck off or fuck you or.
I love that.
And we're like, Marley, she's like, sorry. And then just smile at you.
How can you not forgive her? I love that.
Well, no, you do. That's what I'm saying.
Got
There's but laughing, usually she'll say it more because this is funny. And I'm looking at my boys and Carol's like, don't laugh, please.
Well, and you too, with your sense of humor, I can see you thinking that's funny. It's like, this is hilarious. You got to hold that
Especially when she uses it in a perfect sentence. And as an adjective sometimes, where you're like, not a verb. It's like, she just, dude. So Marley, Marley's the easiest. But with my boys, now that they're adults, which is really weird, like it was, as they were younger, connecting was so easy. They were playing sports or doing dirt bikes and you're involved.
Yeah.
I was coaching or I was taking them to the games and watching. And my oldest, Andre's just so into sports. And him and I we could talk about sports all day long. Mm-hmm. And Crew was into more like extreme shit, like dirt bikes, wakeboarding, cliff jumping, skateboarding, crazy shit that I never did as a kid. And so I just, by supporting him, I was like, all right, how much does it cost? What's the dirt bike? Okay.
Do they have their future plans figured out? Like, do they know roughly what they want to do?
They're thinking about the right things.
Okay.
I would say I didn't think about the things they're thinking about till I was maybe 35, being honest. Just like the way money works, investing, creating what life do you want at such an early age? Like, what do you want? Getting clear on what you want, and then the pathway will open itself up. So they're thinking about the right things, and I've really tried to help them with thinking about the right things in the right way. But now it's figuring out, okay, how do you get there?
How do I do that?
Yeah. But they both are hard workers, and they're very, socially, very capable socially.
Oh, the first time I met Crew, he literally came in and shook my hand. He's like, hey, I'm Crew. Like, he introduced himself to me. I was like, holy shit.
Both of them will shake your hand. They'll look you in the eye.
Yeah.
They can carry a conversation. And I do think this door-to-door thing helps these kids really.
Is that what they're doing now?
Both of them are doing solar. And it just like helps them to like get out of their comfort zone. Think how scary it is. You graduate high school and you go start knocking people's doors to try to sell them solar.
Yeah. You're going to get a lot of no's.
Most no's, all no's,
all
right?
no's.
You get lucky if you get one yes a day. Yeah. Say you knock 100 doors, you get one yes.
Yeah.
Right?
And life will give you a shitload of no's.
Well, it's symbolism for what the real world looks like.
100%. 100%.
And they're getting a taste of that at such early an age, and they become just like resilient, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, he said no. Okay, this guy will probably say yes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then the patience that they've been taught at home
Yeah.
with the family dynamic is it's not instant gratification. I got to knock 100 doors to get one yes, not just one door, one yes, move forward.
Yeah.
You know, so it's all kind of just coming together for them.
Yeah.
I asked this question, it's a difficult question, but I asked this question of everybody. What is the one failure that you believe as a parent that you've done? I know.
Okay, this comes to mind a lot because I've gotten a lot better at it. I still haven't conquered this one. Is presence.
Okay.
I think when I was just balls deep, to say the least, into my business, when I was at home, I was still really hard for me to be very present, right? Like, put my phone over here, even though it's blowing up, and like look at my kids and let's have a real conversation. I have gotten a lot better about that, but I'm still not near close to where I want to be. But I think early in my career, starting this business, that's one thing I think I failed at for sure, right? Like the ability of being present in the moment after work. It's like I'm gone at work all day. I think what's one of the biggest gifts you can give a person, let alone your wife and kids, is presence. Like when they're really wanting to talk about something and you're zoned in and you're not looking at your phone every few seconds, or like worried if someone's texting you, or even just thinking about what your tomorrow looks like and all the shit you have to do. It's really hard.
Yeah.
And so there for a lot of years, I sucked at that.
Yeah.
Physically, I was there. Like I was at the game, but mentally, was I always there and present? No.
Would you say that's a failure though? Would you just say that's part and parcel of being a parent, a business owner? You know, if you worked at a 9 to 5 where you clocked out and you could leave your emails at work and leave the paperwork on the desk and you'll be there at 8 a.m. and pick it right back up again. But when you're running your own business, where if that business fails, it impacts everybody in the family.
Yeah. No, well, you're right. There's a lot more on the line. That's why, I have friends that do have jobs at corporate jobs, and they really can leave it at the office.
Yeah.
And they come home, they don't have to worry about calls and texts. And so this entrepreneur status people think is such a big deal, and I got to work for myself. I don't believe that. I think there are many people that thrive and succeed by working and creating value for a company they work with. And their lifestyle outside of work is 10 times different.
10 times, yeah.
And so that's where you have to identify what success looks like to you.
Yeah. Because the long evenings and weekends that you work being a business owner.
Well, right?
Yeah.
Your weekends are busier than during the week.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's part of it.
It's not glamorous being a business owner and entrepreneur.
Not at all.
It looks glamorous on TV and on paper.
Well, because the 1%, make all this money. There's many percent that barely struggle, but then have all the headaches of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I think there's certain humans, certain people that understand and probably say, I'd rather work for someone. I make a great living, and when I'm on my time, I'm completely on my time.
Yeah.
And I can be present, and I can work on a car in the garage, and my phone, I'm only have to look at my phone all weekend or an email.
Would you advise your kids to be entrepreneurs, business owners?
I don't know. I think that's a tough one. I think certain businesses, yes. Like if one of my sons, like neither of my son wants to go to college, but it had one of them said, hey, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. Great. Go to the right schooling. But unless I think you're very focused on what degree you want, and unless that degree is something that can provide you with a good life, college can sometimes be a waste of time and money, in my opinion.
100%.
And I'm a bad example of college because I never went.
Me neither.
Right.
We turned out all right, yeah?
Yeah. So, but I also think there is value in it, right? For a lot of people, like we have friends like Nick or my best friend Isaac, like he's an engineer, and he obviously wouldn't be where he's at without a degree. So it's like, but he was very focused on what he wanted to do, got his engineering degree, and then went and started working his ass off for a company and just moved your way up, created value for that company. So there's so many different ways to do it.
Yeah.
I think we get stuck in this world we're in where if you're not an entrepreneur, you're a failure. And that's a big mistake.
Oh, huge.
Big mistake.
Huge.
Yeah.
And I think today's society too, with social media, and you see these influencers and these entrepreneurs, and kids think it's easy. You look at these, these folks on YouTube making millions of dollars, a year by posting stupid videos. Oh, I want to do that. Yeah. I'm like, what happens when it ends?
Yeah.
What happens when that phase of life, the entrepreneurial dumb shit videos, ends? Then where do you go?
Yeah. I mean, it's just there's so many ways to do life.
Yeah.
And I think comparing your life to someone else's, that's a big mistake. Just, see what you're good at. Go work for someone. Go start a bit. Do whatever you want, and create the life you want.
It's like parenting. There is no book.
There's no book. In my opinion, the minute you think someone's doing it wrong is something you need to look at in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because there's so many different dynamics to parenting and kids, right? Special needs kids that are, maybe autistic, or other kids that are just dicks. It's like, it's really hard to parent one way, even within your own family.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because your kids have so many different
energies, different personalities,
yes.
different likes, energies.
Yes.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
But I would say one thing, having a family. So I can think of 2 times in my life where I was scared. I don't get scared. Now you're going to make me cry, you son of a bitch. There's been a couple times in my life where I've been scared. And one when Carissa had cancer, the reason why we find out she had cancer is when she threw up blood. And so I'm like, fuck, we got to go to the ER. So I took her to the ER, and in the ER, she passed out on the floor and was white. And I thought like she was dead. And it was just me and her. And it scared the living shit out of me. And a similar experience is recently with Marley when she had her first seizure. She was at school, and my wife calls me, and I was on a call, and she texts me 911 when she's never done in our whole marriage. And I immediately get her call, and she's like frantic, my wife, screaming, bawling. She's like, get to the school. She said Marley had a seizure, which she had never had one up until this was about a year ago. And I remember driving. I'd never been that scared in my life. There's a story. There's a reason why I'm telling you all this. And so getting to that school, and her teachers were crying because she had such a bad one. She was purple and foaming at the mouth. And her one teacher that that went to church with us, that was really one of her great teachers, said she thought she was going to die. And just seeing her, oh. But what these experiences given me is these things that we worry about on a daily basis, like work, or like what people might think of us. I go right back to those moments, and I think that my life, I have such an easy life because of those certain moments when you're just so scared, and like, I'm scared of nothing anymore. Mm-hmm. Right? I am not scared of anything except when it comes to my family and my people that I love and their health. Right? And it just makes you put everything into perspective.
Yeah.
It really just makes you put everything into perspective. And it makes it so much easier for me to go out in the world. Mm-hmm. Right? I was like, I know what scary looks like. I know what that feels like. And this, my daily work schedule, is easy.
Do you think that's forced you to be more present?
Oh, with Marley, when Marley's seizure happened, I have never been more grateful for every moment I get with her since that time. Yeah. And so I just want to be around her now, because it's like, time's so precious, especially with her, because she can't have seizures, and they're scary, and she's on medication, and she's been really good, but it's like, what if she's in the bathtub, or what if she's swimming, and has one? And so it's like,
or she's in a room on the other side of the house, by herself,
and hits her head. And I mean, that's what happens with seizures. Usually seizures don't kill a person, but it's where they're at that kills them. Mm-hmm. they hit their head or they're drowned or they, and so you just have to be on like high alert with stuff like that. And so it's just really put me in a place just of gratitude every moment I get with her, and every moment I get with my wife, and every moment I get with my other kids, because it just put everything, that one moment puts everything into perspective.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and so even now, like when I go to work, I'm like, this is easy. Like, this isn't like when I have to have a tough conversation with someone, easy.
Yeah.
I know what scary looks like and feels like. And so everything else after, or that, other than those feelings, when it comes to health or scaring or cancer or these, everything else is easy. It really is.
And I think for anybody that knows you, friends of ours that are listening, it shows. If they know you and know your family and have seen you as a family man, they see that in you. Yeah. I've seen that in you. Andrea's seen that in you. We've had other friends that see that in you, that how you take life in its stride. Just every day you just, shit, what's coming down the road today? I'll face it.
I do. Right? But it's such a beautiful way to live for me.
Yeah.
Like and even my wife sometimes can get like worried or what about this? What if and I'm just like, honey. And you just go with the flow, because again, you go back to those moments and you're like, we're not in this moment. Everything's great.
Yeah. Right.
And so, for sure, my greatest accomplishment in life is my family, by far. It's brought me the most joy. It's made me the most anchored. And even like in Watt Group, right? Sometimes we're like, okay, we got to think bigger. And I totally am so content on being a family man. I don't need one more thing in my life than if that's all I am, if that's all I'm known for, all I've done with my life, I'd feel like I killed it.
Good for you, mate.
Yeah.
Good for you. So as we start to wrap up, 2 minutes or less than 2 minutes, or however long you want actually, but your best parenting advice.
Ooh. I think me and my wife are on the same page on this. I always just felt like as long as my kids know without a doubt that I love them and accept them, I feel like everything else will just work out, right? I feel like I can have those hard conversations now, especially with my older boys. If they need to get there, if I need to be the dad instead of their friend, and tell them, hey, you're doing some shit you shouldn't be doing. But they know I love them and I accept them for who they are, no matter what. And I feel like when they really know that and feel that, and then you need to go have those hard conversations, I think they're received differently. And I think me as a dad, I don't ever feel bad. I don't feel bad saying, you know what, I got to be a dad today. I'm going to be the dad.
Yeah.
Because I see some things here that not okay. And I have no problem being the dad because I have spent years making sure they know I love them and accept them.
I love that.
Yeah.
What a great way.
So I feel like we can get caught up in so many of the details, but at the end of the day, do they know you love them? And do they know you accept them for who they are? Everything else, I think, they're just minor details. Like, I think to me, that's the key. In my family, right? It's like, there's different ways to do it all.
Yeah.
But for us, just as a dad, I was like, I just want to make sure my kids can always look back and say, man, my dad, no matter what, he did love me and he did accept me.
Yeah. Well, knowing your kids, I know that they think that. So
I think they do, actually.
Yeah. Oh no, they do.
I do. I think they do.
Like we started off the episode, the way they call you king, the way they show you their type of love back to you by giving you that accolade and loving on you and being around you and giving you shit. Like your kids are just like you. They give you shit.
Of course.
I
give them shit.
Which honestly, you and I and Mark McCormick are very similar. That's the way we show love. If I give you shit, it's because I love you.
Well, and I tell people this, if I'm not giving you shit, it's because I don't care about you. I'm serious.
No, it's so true.
Right? But that's kind of how guys do it, at least the guys in my world.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I know that there's this new thing where you got to, let's build everyone up. And I get that. That's great. But it's like, if I'm not giving someone shit, it means I could care less about you.
That's why I love
And so when I tell people, if I give you shit, just receive it. It's love.
It comes from love. It comes from love.
No, it's love.
You're an asshole, but I love you.
It's love. Let me show you how I show love.
Well, Josh, like I said at the beginning, you are one of my great friends. You are one of the people when I think of as a phenomenal father. It is, you put that in the dictionary, phenomenal father, there's a picture of you. And there's a picture of, several other guys too, but you are definitely there. I've seen you in your element with the kids. I've seen you with the way you run your business. I've seen the way you love your wife. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to be one of the first people on my new podcast, because you are one of the true gents and great fathers. So I really appreciate taking the time coming on.
Well, thank you. And before we close, let me tell all of your audience, all 5 people
Listening,
about you.
Okay.
You are likewise like one of the best dads I know. And again, I have a very small circle in my world. I have about 5 or 6 guys that are really in my world, and you're one of them. And to watch you with those girls, when I came to your house and spent a couple days, to watch how your girls look at you and how they treat other people around them is a direct reflection on you and Andrea, and it's you specifically because you're sitting in front of me. But I think this is great you're doing this podcast, because you're very qualified.
Thank you.
Very qualified to do a podcast about parenting. And I look up to you. I think you're the best mix of in your feels and masculine and whatever you are. You're an anomaly, but I think all the good things, you're a perfect balance of all the things that and makes you Matt. But I think there's no one better to do a podcast like this.
Thank you. Well, for people listening, this was actually your brainchild.
Well, I didn't want to bring that up.
I will bring it up for the masses. This was actually so we were sat about a month or so ago, probably a little longer, and we were talking. I wanted to do something bigger than what I do in my daily job, real estate. I wanted to do something bigger and bring value, and I was struggling, and you suggested this. You were like, I've seen you as a dad, I've seen you as a step parent, and I've seen the way you've adapted and the way you've, become the father that you've become. You should do a podcast about parenting. And I kind of laughed it off. I was like, oh, no, I'm not the guy for that. And when I really sat and thought about it, I was like, well, actually, yeah, I became a dad overnight. And here we are today. The podcast has started, and it was because of you planted that seed. So really, it's a credit to you for seeing what you see in me and believing in me and giving me the idea. And here we are. So
I honestly think, let's say it reaches 10 people. Honestly, it'll reach more.
15. I think 15.
But there's going to be someone that listens to one of your podcasts that it helps them.
I hope so.
Right? And even if it's just one, it's worth it.
Yeah, amen. Just one person takes something away and makes life better.
And I think it makes us better just talking about you and I.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I'm going to be a better dad when I leave her.
Yeah. Well, I love it, mate. Thank you so much. I love you too, pal.